Sears Modern Homes and Montgomery Ward might be the most famous and well known when it comes to kit homes, but have you ever asked yourself who supply these companies with their ready to cut materials? Hi everyone, Ken here. Today we're uncovering Gordon Van Tine kit homes and how they were able to successfully break away from these manufacturing giants to compete directly and undercut the market. Hit that subscribe button and let's dive into a special episode of This House. Gordon Van Tine's journey to the forefront of kit home manufacturing began humbly, rooted not in architecture but in lumber. The company traces its origins to a sawmill established in 1866 in Davenport, Iowa by a man named U.N. Roberts. In the decades after the Civil War, Davenport was a bustling river town positioned at the crossroads of American expansion, nestled on the Mississippi River and linked to the nation's growing railroad network. Roberts' sawmill thrived by supplying timber to a country in the midst of a building boom. By the turn of the century, the family business had expanded into a prominent lumber company. It was from this foundation that the Gordon Van Tine Company emerged in 1907, founded by Robert's sons, Edward and Horace, along with a business partner. The new venture took its name from two of its principal backers, one bearing the middle name Gordon and another the surname Van Tine, a moniker that would soon become synonymous with quality kit homes. At the dawn of the 20th century, America was ripe for a new kind of house-building revolution. The railroads had stitched together far-flung regions, making it possible to ship goods, even entire houses, from factory to farm or suburb. Meanwhile, companies like Sears were turning their thick mail-order catalogs into the Amazon of their day, selling everything under the sun to customers in even the most remote corners of the country. It was only a matter of time before these two forces, the reach of rail and the power of the catalog, converged on the most important purchase of all, the family home. In 1908, Sears offered its first modern home, selling houseplans and bundles of materials by mail. The idea caught fire. Here was a chance for anyone with a piece of land and a bit of gumption to construct a solid, modern dwelling at an affordable price. No longer did you need to hire an architect or start from scratch at the local lumber yard. You could pick a design from a catalog, order it, and a few weeks later, a boxcar would arrive with everything you need to build your house, from lumber already cut to size, to doors, windows, nails, and even paint. The kit home embodied the American DIY ethos and the nation's cultural optimism. It promised that an everyday person could literally build their own dream home. Gordon Van Tine entered this burgeoning market almost by happenstance. In its early years, the company was simply a supplier of building materials. In fact, from 1907 until 1912, Gordon Van Tine quietly provided the lumber and millwork for Sears kit houses. If a Sears bungalow went up in those years, chances are the joists and rafters came out of the Davenport mills of Gordon Van Tine. This behind-the-scenes role gave the Iowa upstart a front-row education in the mail-order housing business. They saw how popular the idea was becoming and realized they had both the resources and know-how to do it themselves. So when Sears shifted to sourcing elsewhere in 1913, Gordon Van Tine was ready to step directly into the spotlight. They published their own plan book, offering dozens of house designs to the public. Soon they were selling not just raw lumber, but complete home kits under their own name. By the mid-1910s, Gordon Van Tine had fully embraced the kit home revolution. In 1916, they introduced their first ready-cut homes, kits in which every piece of lumber was precisely pre-cut at the factory and labeled for assembly. This leap meant that a house could go up faster and with less need for skilled carpenters wielding hand saws on site. The parts fit together like a life-size puzzle. A buyer would still get to wield hammer and nails or hire a local handyman, but the hard work of measuring and cutting was already done, and done accurately. The time savings were tremendous. What might have taken a crew weeks to cut and fit could now be accomplished in days. And as any home builder knows, time is money. Gordon Van Tine kits were priced to save both. A complete 3-bedroom bungalow kit, for example, might run around $1,500 in the early 1920s, and that included everything from the hardwood flooring and oak doors to the brass doorknobs, plus all the necessary hardware, shingles, and paint. Customers often reported that building a Gordon Van Tine house cost them significantly less than buying materials locally and hiring a contractor. In testimonials, new homeowners boasted of saving hundreds of dollars on their construction. If the materials were first-rate, the designs were just as appealing. Gordon Van Tine's catalogs offered a cornucopia of architectural styles to suit American taste. There were snug craftsman bungalows with wide front porches perfect for sipping lemonade on a summer evening, rambling farmhouses with gabled roofs ready to shelter big rural families, elegant colonial revivals with symmetrical facades for the upwardly mobile and new suburban neighborhoods, and plain yet practical cottages that could fit on a narrow urban lot. During the 1910s and 1920s, the company's plan books featured everything from the latest arts and crafts style details like building cabinetry and decorative eaves, to some traditional Victorian flourishes that hadn't yet gone out of fashion. Part of the kit home's allure was that it gave ordinary people access to professional design. Gordon Van Tine made this even better by inviting customers to customize. Buyers were encouraged to tweak floor plans, swap out porch styles, or choose different siding and trim to make the house their own. The company even had an in-house home planning department, staffed with architects ready to help adapt or entirely custom design a home for a client, often at no extra charge beyond the cost of materials. This kind of flexibility set Gordon Van Tine apart. Where some competitors sold houses strictly as is, the Davenport firm was willing to say yes to personalized requests. They dubbed this customer-centric approach the Van Tine system. In essence, it put the homeowner in the driver's seat alongside the company's experts, ensuring that a kit house could truly feel like a bespoke creation rather than a one-size-fits-all product. As business picked up, Gordon Van Tine expanded its reach across the country. What began as a regional operation in Iowa quickly grew to a national scale. The company established milling operations beyond Davenport in locations such as St. Louis, Mississippi, and even far-off Washington state, which allowed it to harvest quality lumber from different forests and ship kits more efficiently to customers in every corner of the U.S. Whether you were building on the windswept plains of Kansas, in the pine woods of Oregon, or on the outskirts of a booming city like Chicago, you could order a Gordon Van Tine home and expect it to arrive promptly by rail from the nearest company mill. By the 1920s, tens of thousands of their houses were springing up from coast to coast. The 1920s were the high watermark for Gordon Van Tine and its kit homes. Business boomed as America boomed. Urban growth and suburban expansion meant endless demand for new houses, and on farms, good crop prices translated into improved farmsteads and new barns. Gordon Van Tine rode this wave adeptly. In addition to homes, they published specialized catalogs for farm buildings in the 20s, offering pre-cut designs for everything from chicken coops to enormous hay barns. Perhaps the clearest sign of the company's prominence was its alliance with Montgomery Ward. Starting in 1917, the mail-order giant contracted Gordon Van Tine to produce the kit homes for Ward's own Wardway branded houses. Many Wardway models were virtual twins of the Gordon Van Tine's catalog, with different names. Through this partnership, Gordon Van Tine homes found even wider distribution, albeit under another label. By the end of the Roaring '20s, the company was thriving with a vast portfolio of designs, a national customer base, and a reputation for quality. It's estimated that during its lifetime, Gordon Van Tine sold around 54,000 houses under its own name and supplied materials for another 20,000 sold by Montgomery Ward. Then came the Great Depression. The economic crash of 1929 and the harsh years that followed hit the housing industry hard. Suddenly, new home construction dried up, banks weren't lending, and families were tightening their belts. Few were thumbing through catalogs dreaming of a new bungalow when they could barely keep food on the table. Montgomery Ward shut down its Wardway Homes division during those lean years, eliminating a major source of business for Gordon Van Tine. During the carefree 1920s, the company had even offered its own financing, allowing customers to buy a kit on credit and pay it off over time. But as the Depression deepened, defaults mounted and the in-house mortgage program ended in 1931, leaving Gordon Van Tine holding the bag. With sales plummeting and the average person being unable to afford a new house, the company's leaders got creative and began marketing to people with money. In 1932, they rolled out a new tier of offerings called Master-Built Homes. Unlike the standard kits, which were economical and fairly simple, the Master-Built line was pitched as a step up. More luxurious options, better fixtures and finishes, and a greater degree of tailoring to the buyer's preferences. It was an effort to attract those few who still had money to build and wanted something a cut above the ordinary. At the same time, Gordon Van Tine downsized its regular catalog to focus on smaller, more affordable designs suitable for the straitened times. Their architects continued to work with customers on custom plans, perhaps more than ever, trying to win every possible sale by offering personal service and flexibility. These measures kept the company afloat, if only just. By the late 1930s, as the nation's economy gradually crawled out of the Great Depression, Gordon Van Tine saw glimmers of hope. Housing construction in America picked up slightly toward the end of the decade as employment rose and confidence returned. The company took out upbeat advertisements and highlighted newly built kit homes as signs that better days were ahead. The outbreak of World War II in 1939 and the U.S. entry in 1941 brought a whole new set of challenges. Almost overnight, domestic home building was curtailed by material shortages. Strategic materials like steel were rationed, even lumber was in high demand for military use, and civilian construction was restricted to prioritize the war effort. For companies like Gordon Van Tine, it meant their core business had to be all but suspended. Yet true to its resourceful roots, the company pivoted to support the nation's needs. During the war years, Gordon Van Tine's factories that once churned out cozy cottages turned to producing barracks and temporary housing for soldiers and defense workers. When World War II ended, a massive housing boom indeed swept the country. Millions of returning GIs and their families were desperate for homes, but the world had changed. Construction methods were evolving, and large developers were gearing up to build whole subdivisions of houses on site, using assembly line efficiencies that rivaled what kit home companies had done in factories. New federal programs and financing, such as FHA loans and the GI Bill, spurred conventional home building, often under government guidelines that favored standardized construction. Ultimately, the decision was made not to attempt a comeback in the civilian housing market. In 1946, the assets of Gordon Van Tine were sold to a salvage firm in Cincinnati, and the company was slated for liquidation. By 1947, the once mighty kit home manufacturer closed its doors for good. After 40 years, the last Gordon Van Tine catalog was printed, the final orders shipped, and an era quietly came to an end. But the houses remain, and with them, the story lives on. As long as a Gordon Van Tine home stands, perhaps lovingly restored by an owner who recognizes its significance, or simply cherished as grandma's house by someone who doesn't know its origin, the legacy of this company and the optimistic era it represented will be alive too. In those sturdy walls and craftsman eaves, and the sunlight falling through old wavy glass windows, one can still feel the resonance of a time when houses came in boxes, ready to be built, and the future felt as open as the frontier. It's a legacy of craftsmanship, innovation, and hope, quietly enduring in neighborhoods all around us. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Let me know your thoughts on Gordon Van Tine kit homes down below in the comments section, and while you're there, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.